how do you see AI in the future for your market?
AI is existential, meaning, like an existential event, meaning it changes your existence. And that could be good or bad. But in the forms of communication, if you don't have a paying customer, in some ways you really don't have a business, right? So you got to figure out who the problem is that you're solving and then tying that back into, the solution that you're delivering.
This is Nate MacLeitch, the guy behind QuickBlox. He's been working with tech forever. Think early cell phone days at Lucent, then building a mobile biz that went big across Europe before cashing out. Now he's mixing AI with healthcare at QuickBlox. Nate's got some cool stories and real talk for you to discover in this episode.
But AI being the first opener, being the thing that will open the conversation. What are your thoughts about this?
I think once too many calls become AI, it's just going to end up being a repeat of
Nobody will pick the phone anymore.
Robocalling anyways. But over time, we really saw kind of two trends, healthcare and health tech being really important.
We have a scenario here where communication is important and the human and agent side is important. What are your thoughts about this?
E-coffee with experts.
Nate, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm good, Victor. And first of all, thanks for having me on. I appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit more about our story and what we're doing. And it's also great to meet you and learn kind of more about what you're doing with this podcast and also your experience in kind of building communication projects. So thanks.
You're so kind.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
No, I'm the one who have to say thank you, really, especially with your career, especially with your background. I know that we're going to have a fun conversation. But alas, let's start it off as I always do. I just presented you over, quick introduction, but the guests, the viewers, they always want to know more. So who is Nate? If you can tell us about your career, about how you managed to found QuickBlox, whatever you can share, we are all ears.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, Victor. I'm originally from California. I grew up in wine country. And I guess some of my original influences around technology is my parents got a Pong, which was one of the first video games in existence. And then when I was much younger, I learned how to do an Apple I and an Apple II. So I'm kind of dating myself from the 80s here. But,
Wow.
That was always something that was interesting for me in technology, but I kind of came through technology in a bit of a roundabout path. So originally I thought I was going to be a lawyer and do all that kind of stuff. And instead I ended up working for a technology company called Lucent as a project manager, setting up base stations for setup of early cell phone networks. And then I ended up working for a media company called Red Herring, which covered technology and investments and new startups. And that's kind of where I got the startup bug. And so I worked in business development, marketing, and sales with them. And then I also ended up then taking some time off going to graduate school and lived abroad in the UK. And that was like the early days of mobile phones. So SMS was just starting out. I'm kind of dating myself a little bit here. And
Don't worry, because I'm really sorry to cut you, but I was working with SMS before joining here last year. So it's still a technology, right?
No, I mean, it still is. Like, you need to get an appointment confirmation, you need to get a transaction confirmation, or even do billing. SMS is a great delivery mechanism because you can send that to any device. So after finishing graduate school, I ended up working for a company doing SMS services. It's now part of Cisco, but my job was to work with Vodafone and T-Mobile and some large carriers to create SMS services for them. It could be anything from horoscopes to news alerts to like getting, your Arsenal scores on your phone. And at that point, I was really, fully, into mobile and technology because we saw that as the way going forward. I then ended up kind of leaving that role and starting my first company. And then basically we provided a variety of mobile content services, Java games, SMS services. So all of the kind of the feature phones moving over to smartphones, providing, a variety of mobile content services. I grew that out to a number of different European countries. So we're in the UK, we're in Australia, South Africa, and then a number of countries in Europe. And then I exited that business. And then I kind of took a little time out trying to figure out, what I wanted to do next. Got involved with some other startups, kind of advising, And then I basically saw on the back end the need to have these services done as a service. So moving into CPaaS, communication platform as a service. And that's kind of where we, basically started QuickBlox. And so the idea here was to provide, communication services for companies that want to add these kind of things to their apps or their applications. And so as kind of time progressed, we had customers doing things in e-commerce for, some of the use cases we're talking about, like connecting buyers and sellers through real-time chat, use cases around finance, use cases especially around social networking, dating, like people like to do video calls and chat with each other. And that could be a variety of different services from just dating to, finding a marriage partner, which we're doing with a company called Shadi in India. So
nice.
A bunch of different use cases. But over time, we really saw kind of two trends, healthcare and health tech being really important. So because obviously the rise towards telemedicine and COVID obviously accelerated that. The ability to connect with patients, allow them to get, virtual care or consultations. And then on top of that, really the trend with, or not trend, the kind of the big change with AI. And so with QuickBlox now, we've added a whole AI communication layer on top of the core CPaaS capabilities. So AI can automate things like patient intake or asking the right kind of questions, figure out who that message or who that communication needs to go to as far as a human, and allow the humans to be able to kind of interact and support each other through AI assistance. So that's kind of a very compressed version of from basically simple SMS all the way to kind of AI powered communication.
And naturally, one of the things that I always ask my guests is, hey, how do you see AI in the future for your market? But AI is the present for your market right now. It is what you go on.
Yeah. So I didn't want to interrupt you, but
No.
In our market, like AI is existential, meaning, like an existential event, meaning it changes your existence, and that could be good or bad. But in the forms of communication, it's now AI is really almost a part of any kind of real-time communication. It could be your ambient listener that's going on in the back of your video call, taking your notes. It could be some form of sentiment analysis that's looking at the tone of your messages and seeing if they're good or bad. It could be some sort of facial recognition. And it could be also some sort of, autonomous agents that do things for you based on your commands. So we see AI in the CPaaS communication layer being very much interwound and basically creating kind of a new means of communication where you have both AI and human-centered communication working together for positive benefits. So for us, AI is a fundamental part of our product now. And so people can use our product to create AI assistants or create virtual consultations and take advantage of these capabilities in any form of virtual communication.
What I remember from selling CPaaS was the fear that the prospect, the lead, the other side of the screen had in regards to it looks like too much. You have omni-channel as the first step, right? So you're plugging in your Instagram, you're plugging in your Facebook, your whatever social media the company might have. But then we would come to point in the conversation, and this was in 2021. We would come to this point where, Victor, I don't know what to send. I don't know how to write. I'm not a writer. I'm not a copywriter. I don't have somebody to do this for me. I see the value of the CPaaS, but there is something else missing. And now this something else missing, as you just said, can be AI to help generating everything else.
Yeah,
but,
sorry, go ahead.
No. I think I will help you with your reply.
Yeah.
But even in the SEO market, we are very scared now is not the term, but we are very resistant not as well. We know that AI doesn't generate good enough content if you don't prompt it well enough, if you don't reveal it. It's not there yet, which is super fine. So yeah, coming to what you would say right now, how is nowadays, whenever you talk to your customer, how is the feeling they have when they know that AI will help with those part of the job?
Well, let's take a step back just to the kind of the fundamental power of just communication, right? Like you and I are having a conversation here, we're exchanging information, we're having a video call or podcast, right? Or if you and I were on WhatsApp or in some sort of messaging
FaceTime.
app, very simple, easy way, FaceTime to share your reactions, coordinate, communicate. So that's already, very well established as great pathways of communication. And really, I think some of the questions are, how do you tie in, the AI in ways that kind of improves that experience and doesn't take away, right? And so this is, I think you're raising the point about, can you have that AI segmented around different knowledge base, right? So that AI can take the context in based on the conversation and kind of add information on out. Can you have the AI basically provide some sort of automation of the output? Like, so for some of our services around healthcare, we're generating what's called a SOAP note, which is like a summary of the healthcare visit. And so with these cases, what you're doing is you're removing administrative burden on the back of the people in the communication flow. So coming back to your point is about like, hey, these customers may want to like use the real-time chat, but then, I'm not a great writer. Well, AI, can basically, if you give it some content, it can kind of draft better responses for you based on a knowledge base. And you can dictate that as well. You can say, hey, respond to this user at an 8th grade reading level, or, keep the messages less than 50 words. And then in terms of what information is communicated, you have your own knowledge as a human being, but you can also supplement that knowledge now real time with a knowledge base or AI assistant that can also make suggestions to you in a way that's very personal. So that could be different use cases that you could do that. Ones could include customer care, but it could also include specialist knowledge around healthcare. So maybe it makes some recommendations. Like we have a company in the dental software space, and they want to basically enable their dentists to be able to kind of upload their notes and then be able to use our AI assistants to kind of give them some thoughts or some summaries or some ideas on the back of that. And so these are ways that you're not replacing the person, but you're supplementing their capabilities. And so I think that's really the promise of AI, is to improve our workflows, improve our communication, and improve our outcomes based on using these tools in a positive way.
Yeah, you're definitely right about that. You've been all over the world. As far as I know, you've been to London, you've been to the US, you live and you've been near Silicon Valley. You are also an investor, so you're working with ventures. You have it all. You have a lot of knowledge in your mind about what works and whatnot, but of course it's always changing. When you were starting QuickBlox, especially in this era, as you just said, of communication being one of the most key things in our lives, do you remember if anything specific, any experiences, any past companies gave you a quick insight about, hey, I know that this works, let us apply this in QuickBlox, and now you know that it worked for you as well? Did this happen at all or not?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of technology is evolution on top of other technologies, right? And you can kind of see use cases where it becomes more, applicable, or all of a sudden the market's ready for it. Like if you go back to the early days of like the dot-com boom and these companies, opened up and then they went bust, a lot of that was because, the market wasn't there yet, right? There may be, tens of millions of connected devices versus billions. And so like if you want to do like, pet food on demand, which there's, companies doing that today and they make money, they couldn't shift a 50 pound bag of dog food, 25 years ago, right? There was no infrastructure for delivery. There weren't the devices there. There wasn't the market of people using it. Yeah. So like from that point of view, I think all technology is additive. Even I didn't mention it earlier in my bio, but when I was first moved to London, I was working with another guy who now works at Microsoft, actually in their cloud division. And he and I were creating chatbots back then, like very early days, where we had natural language processing, where you could ask questions and get responses back. Awesome. Except if you got one word wrong, the AI wouldn't work, right? Because the technology wasn't mature enough. There wasn't the knowledge base now. So I think in terms of like building a company, it's good to kind of take a look at, what is possible and then to build upon that today. So like when I started the company in mobile content, that was building on top of the SMS infrastructure that was today. So we could build for mobile content, app stores started to raise, you can get distribution points. And then with the QuickBlox and the communication layer, the communication infrastructure is now established, customers using those tools. And now with AI, you have to keep on innovating to add those kind of technologies in, right? Because, technology doesn't stand still and neither do markets. And so for us, evolving and adding these new capabilities in our platform isn't just, a want to have, it's kind of a need to have. But to your point, it has to be generally useful, right? There has to be some value that's created as part of that process.
And you actually just came to my next question, which would be about the customers that you already have, getting them into QuickBlox and making sure that they stay. In terms of, as you just said, you always need to evolve the product. You always need to meet the market's demand. But what else? What else is QuickBlox doing right now to make sure that the customer becomes a fan and then becomes the champion? And then you blink and you have kind of an indirect sales guy working for you. What are you doing to make sure this happens?
Yeah, I mean, having evangelists who aren't paid on your are an awesome thing to have. I mean, I think with our core communication tools, we have some, robust communication pieces. With AI, what we're finding is that, you have to have good domain expertise, right? Because the AI agents are only as good as their knowledge base and in terms of the workflow they have. So we're basically putting together advisory panels and different verticals who can kind of think about, what sort of content needs to be on top of the communication workflow to support that. And specifically in healthcare, we're working with a number of domain experts to think about, where are the workflows, where's the content that removes their pain points to kind of move that forward, right? Because ultimately you do want to have evangelists. I think evangelists come out of people who, first they're passionate about the technologies of AI or other areas, but then they have also, some specific knowledge about, how this technology can improve their life. And then working with them to kind of extract that knowledge and put it in a product or use case that more than one person can use is important, right? Because that helps you scale, right?
Of course. And you are in this market that is very competitive. You have a lot of already established companies. Twilio is one that comes to my mind that have been in the CPaaS market for a while and naturally become top of mind. So whenever you are in this go-to-market phase, especially with your experience as a head of sales, do you focus on one feature or one part of the company that can differentiate itself easily against Twilio? Or is it more of a relationship-based company where a community-driven is always coming back, giving you more leads, giving you referrals? How does it work nowadays?
Yeah, I mean, I think like today, definitely building a community around your product, having product market fit feedback is incredibly important. I think when we first started on the community tools, I mean, there is dangers about being commoditized, right? If people just want that one function. So by effectively pushing more deeply into healthcare, pushing around these kind of AI related workflows, that's where we see, differentiation. And also providing more right out of the box solutions, because I think with AI, when people ask it to do something, whether by voice or by text, it's like the duck swimming in the pond. The duck looks nice and smooth, but it's paddling beneath that. Like the AI is doing all the stuff in the background. And so if you can create more simple interfaces and experiences for people to interact with your product, that's more likely to ease adoption. And so that's something that we're very conscious of when weaving, the AI tools, that we're moving kind of, I guess, beyond CPaaS into kind of more actually kind of ready applications that can be customized for the customer's use case. So that could be, simple embeddable AI assistants, which can hand off to someone if it doesn't know the answer, to the ability to do like a plug-inable, virtual telemedicine visit, and it would do the transcriptions for you. So there's a variety of different ways that, both getting more specific on the market and getting more specific on the use cases that you can differentiate from, a big company that's kind of offering more a commoditized service.
Makes sense. We were just talking about how community is an important step for every company, right? You need your community to be champions as evangelists, as you said. And whenever I think of me as a sales professional using tools, what keeps me around is the user experience and the user friendliness. As you just said, making sure that if the AI doesn't get it, it sends to the agent, normal CPaaS scenarios. But then another thing that always keeps me around a tool is customer support whenever I need customer support. And I can see already by the conversation we're having that paying close attention to the community and your user base is a very important thing for QuickBlox at the moment. Do you see...
Definitely.
No, you're the best. Don't apologize, really. Do you see a future, even in customer support, even to your customers, where AI will be the one handling first interactions going to the agents? Or since you are already selling an AI solution, do you feel like you need to have a human customer support?
I think this kind of ends up being a bit of a continuum where there'll be different scenarios depending on the use case, right? Because, there's a variety of different studies that, if AI can do the job better than a customer support, then, many people are very comfortable interacting with that AI and having it get its response. But there are other areas where you clearly need to have an expert or human in the loop, right? AI doesn't have a medical license. AI doesn't have a law license. So AI is not going to take, the liability on board in some of these scenarios, which could be complex with healthcare. So I think in those cases, there's a segmentation between, autonomous AI where, if it can book the appointment and takes the information it needs there, or it fetches that information from the database that you want, that's great. And we're definitely focused on expanding our AI capabilities from knowledge assistants to intake to autonomous agents that can do things for you. But it's very key also with use cases around healthcare or specialist information that you also enable the AI to assist, the professional and provide them with, suggested answers or help take the transcript off of them so they can, either provision, healthcare or provision services. Or if you're doing more, let's say you want to buy, something, a house, or if you want to buy, a more high-end vehicle, AI can do a lot to do the gathering, but, you're going to have, an agent who's going to kind of help you take you through that process or help you identify issues beforehand. So I think the world's going to be basically a mashup moving forward. And I think depending on how much can be automated because people will want to do automation because it saves time and money and resources. But in other areas, human beings always want to interact with other human beings and, create relationships. So you also have to have scenarios where you enable those flows in parallel.
I agree. I 100% agree. Actually, a few minutes before joining this conversation with you, I was reading a LinkedIn post about a sales manager who just got cold called by an AI. It's the first time I ever heard about this. So he even gave the details. The AI, just when he picked the phone, the AI started talking already, which removed the awkwardness of a cold calling when you're using a human being. I'm awful at cold calling. I don't like it at all. It's not for me. I am always concerned about the other side, but the AI is not. So we have a scenario here where communication is important and the human and agent side is important. And you also have a market, especially the tech B2B one, where cold calling is a part of it. And you have tremendous obstacles to get through in order to reach the customer. Now, getting this into your market, getting this into your product. We know that text-based AI and image-based AI is moving forward, is evolving. We're still lagging a little bit behind of autonomous voice AI. AI can help understanding what you say. AI can reply back to you after you say something. But AI being the first opener, being the thing that will open the conversation. What are your thoughts about this?
Yeah, I don't know, because we've seen this also obviously on the email level where you get those personalized emails from AI saying, hey, you're so-and-so and this will be of interest to you. Or, in this case with the calls. I think AI is pretty transparent now when you see that it's AI generated email. And I do think that actually in some cases, maybe less is more, that sometimes people just want to get a little snippet of information to say, here's what we're doing, and, invite them to kind of learn more and engage. So I think you can overdo it with the AI and the first initial outreach, because I think people don't want to feel like, their data has been consumed and processed by an AI and kind of sent to you. So I think, AI discovery is incredibly powerful, right? I mean, we can see that with search engine volumes, they're projected to be cut in half over the next 5-10 years because more and more people will be leaning on the AI assistant to kind of navigate, their way through. But I think there also to be like some form of discovery, right? And with the sales, you're always kind of wanting to reach outreach and find new customers, right? That's the whole nature of sales, right? Who can use the product, or whose problem are you looking to solve? So I don't know if we've got a good answer on that yet, because I think once too many calls become AI, it's just going to end up being a repeat of
Nobody will pick the phone anymore.
Yeah, robocalling anyway has already prevented people from picking up the phone today. So, is AI going to bring that back if you get robocalled from an AI? Probably not. But I think I think there needs to be some way that people can find an easy way to engage with the AI. Like, hey, here's some sort of short, information. Here's what we're doing. Click here to learn more, and then have the AI kind of help bring them on board in an easier way. That I think is definitely powerful. But the robocalling piece, I'm not certain. But that being said, there are use cases where AI calls can be quite helpful in gathering information or following up, like especially in healthcare or where you might send a message or a link and you need to get, a check-in from the person about, are they having any adverse reactions? How are they doing after the surgery? And then gathering that information and passing it to a human who can then action that. So there's a lot of ways that it can add value, but as cold calling, I think it's still pretty early days of that technology, I think.
It is. And do you see a market that has not yet utilized CPaaS, especially with AI to its full strength, that you can, let's pretend in the perfect future, 2 years from now, doesn't have to be that long. AI evolved a little bit more, but more people will start using it. Is there a specific market nowadays that you feel like should be already using it, but they're not?
Well, I think there's markets that are hesitant to use it because of, regulatory and compliance reasons. Like healthcare, we are definitely doing business in healthcare, but, there are fears about, from professionals about how to do that. Like, is the AI being a knowledge assistant or is it doing diagnosis, at which point it becomes a medical device? And that becomes a lot more complex from a regulatory point of view. Or legal services as well. AI is going to be able to do great summaries of the case and details there. But so I think regulated industries are a little slower in adopting the technology, understandably so. But, we still think that's actually where a lot of value could be created. In terms of the underlying CPaaS capabilities, I think more and more stuff's going to be bundled into kind of a ready solution, rather than like more of a technical integration, which has traditionally been with our SDKs and APIs. I think people are going to want stuff out of the box that they can kind of easily train their AI or point them to a knowledge base and then say, hey, here's my workflow about, if the AI doesn't know, it should go to this person, or here's what I want the AI to gather, and then it can summarize it, and then I can take that forward. So I think a lot of these kind of workflows will be probably through more ready apps and solutions than the underlying person worrying about the technology, because most people don't know how the AI actually works themselves, the LLMs, right? They just want the AI to answer the questions. They're also not asking questions about how did the video call work? Well, we're just talking on the video call, right? But behind that, there's WebRTC, there's stun intern servers.
A lot of plugins happening, talking to themselves.
There's a lot of stuff that's happening, which, the end user doesn't know and they don't really care. They just want to make sure that AI communication workflow works. So I think that will be probably the realm of more kind of solutions that you're pushing on now, or apps that can be customized.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward for that future. The best use case that I have right now, my mother-in-law is always calling us to pay her invoices, her internet bill, her energy bill. And we're always on the lookout for, when will AI be something so much easy to handle that I can just, push my mother-in-law to talk to the AI. As you said, it will evolve. People will have readier solutions, plug and play, as we like to say.
Yeah.
But as of now, naturally, we're still, learning with it and learning how to evolve it. Yeah. Now,
and also if you're doing that for your mother-in-law, then obviously does your AI have your permission to hit your credit card and take money from your bank account? So like, there's also things about like what sort of rules you want to put around your AI, because, you don't necessarily want your AI to go to town and spend your monthly budget and then you don't have any kind
That's not going to be nice, right? That's not going to be nice.
There's definitely layers of like, the AI today is powerful and it can be used in a lot of use cases, but they need to be thought out about, where does the AI add value and where do you need to bring, the human being into the process. And I think that's probably one of the bigger challenges right now is actually integration of these technologies, because there's a lot of stuff that's built that you can use today. And that's why, what we're looking at is providing ways that people can more easily integrate these technologies and have some control, because otherwise it becomes a bit of a mess, right? If you try and build everything from scratch or the rest of it.
It becomes a chore. You lose the customer that way, right? Especially if they have the expectation to at least have some kind of help, have some kind of structure.
Yeah.
It's something
and
that
people want to have value from, like, they don't want to wait 6 months before they can see value out of the software or about the AI agent, right? They want to, like, if they can go on ChatGPT and ask a question and get something back, then their question is, hey, why can't I do that with my bank? Or why can't I do that with my doctor? Or why can't I do it here or there? So like with these pieces, they want to, the expectation is being changed that, the way that the users interact with technology is simplifying. And I think the interfaces that we use will need to reflect that.
Agreed. 100% agreed. I'm just looking forward to that moment, where a lot of these mundane tasks get literally replaced, not replaced, but get easier to be done with AI. So yes, I'm also looking very much to that future. Now, coming to a closing statement and question, especially to you with the experience that I already mentioned, with how much you are around different companies, do you have a specific advice you would give to young entrepreneurs who are starting their own business right now? It can be a tech one, can be an agency, whatever, it can be a restaurant. But with your knowledge, can you share just one small little bit piece of advice for our viewers out here?
I mean, you want to understand, if you don't have a paying customer, in some ways you really don't have a business, right? So you got to figure out who the problem is that you're solving, and then tying that back into, the solution that you're delivering. We have a lot of capabilities in our platform and our business, but, when starting out, you have got to pick, probably smaller problems to solve or specific use cases to look at where you know that there's some sort of pain point that you can improve the process. And obviously working on things that are difficult or create, solving pain points are better than things that are nice to have, right? I mean, the old expression, like you drive to the pharmacy in the middle of the night to get aspirin if you got a splitting headache. You're not going to do that if, you just forgot to take your vitamins, right?
Yeah, true.
So yeah, basically, try and figure out which sort of use cases. And I think also, whatever kind of business you do today, you need to think about how, AI is going to impact it, in good ways or bad. Do you have specific knowledge bases that you can apply to AI? Because that's also a way to kind of create your own, unique products, right? Because AI, has requirements for specific knowledge. And if you have that specific knowledge, then you can make some pretty powerful propositions. So yeah, that's a couple different points. But yeah, I'd focus on, customer, try and keep, your product more simple. Think about, what your market is and how you're going to reach those people who want to buy your product.
I agree. And yeah, I mean, it's getting back to the entire conversation that we just had. It's all about making sure that we're up to their standards and expectations. Also making sure that they're getting the support, that this is a community, that they feel valued. So yes, I just wanted to confirm and close this with, your mouth saying the words. So Nate, just thank you. Thank you for being the best. Thank you for being such a great person. This is the time we had. I don't want to waste too much of your time as more, but for, this entire experience, I think what I just learned is it's not only you need to have passion, but as you said, you need to make sure that the passion itself can be monetized by a product, agency, whatever, because that's the world right now. If you don't have paying customers, it's not going to work out, right? Yeah. Unfortunately, that's the thing. It's not going to work out. So that's it.
Unless it's really, really hardcore technology that someone's going to, fund you through that. But, most time that's a little more difficult, right? You have to have some real proprietary information.
Yeah, it is true. Well, Nate, thank you so much for being here with a Coffee with Experts. You are a true expert and we really appreciate your time. Do you have anything else you'd want to say before I close this up?
No, just thanks for having me on the show. I enjoyed the conversation. I like the fact you had knowledge about how communication and AI is being transformed based on your own personal experience. It's nice to kind of start with someone who's got some expertise, and hopefully we'll stay in touch. Appreciate it.
We will stay in touch, and I want to have you back in the show because I think what we did right now, we educated the viewers of what CPaaS and AI is and how it can help, but we can get deeper into more technical questions in the future and more niche markets. Because this is all about, making sure that people make money.
Yeah, sure. We have AI assistants out of the box that people can use to create, intelligent AI assistants that are HIPAA compliant, which means they can be used in healthcare. We've got virtual telemedicine related products that have AI capabilities in as well. So yeah, we'd love to kind of dig deeper onto use cases that we can help your audience.
Awesome. So everybody else, stay tuned. Click on the subscribe button. Follow Nate on every single links that we're going to be putting down in the description. You're going to have QuickBlox websites. You're going to have Nate's LinkedIn and every single social media piece of it. But alas, this has been Victor with Nate. Nate, thank you so much. Once again, you're the best.
All right. Thanks, Victor. Bye-bye.
Everyone else, let's stay in touch. You know where to find me. We have episodes coming further down the line. If you have any questions to Nate, just hit him up. He's open. He's a nice guy. He likes to talk. Why not just, ask something else, right? That has been me. Thank you so much. See you guys in the next time.